Bien, buenas tardes a todos. Comienzo haciendo la introducción en español. El señor que tengo adelante mío es el entrenador Steve Palladino. No sé si lo pronuncié bien en español o en English. My pronunciation of your second name is right. It's Palladino, Palladino, Palladino. Okay. Palladino. Bien, para nosotros es muy importante este señor porque es un gran productor de información del entrenamiento con potencia, de correr con potencia. Voy a hacer una pequeña introducción con respecto a su historia. ¿Sí? First in Spanish, and then I will introduce you in English. Are you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. He's a very, have thousand stories. Off record, he told me a very fun story, really. Maybe we can talk again for the people.
We might occasionally start laughing, and just so that people understand, there's a reason.
Yeah, it's okay. Bien. El profesor Palladino es fundador del Palladino Power Project, que es un servicio de entrenamiento a distancia y consultoría personal para entrenar corredores de media distancia y de larga distancia. Él se especializa en lo que es el entrenamiento con potenciómetros, especialmente con el strip. En su experiencia personal, él tiene una marca personal para la maratón de 2 horas 16, con la cual clasificó para los Juegos del 1980. Tiene más de 30 años de profesión. You are a doctor, a medical profession. You have in your background medical profession. Y hace más de 15 años que estudia y trabaja, analiza y produce información sobre el entrenamiento con potencia. Hoy se dedica a entrenar a, corredores de secundaria, corredores que salen de la universidad y gente de grupo de edad. Tiene una filosofía de entrenamiento en la que intenta a través del entrenamiento por potencia y sus conocimientos médicos de evitar lesiones y el desarrollo integral de la persona. Él tiene la fuerte creencia que en su filosofía que el entrenamiento con potencia es el futuro del entrenamiento, y es muy fácil encontrarlo y muy accesible, un hombre muy accesible y muy activo en las redes sociales, en su Facebook, Palladino Power Project on Facebook. People can find you on Facebook. You are very active in the last days. Very active.
I think it's important to keep the thoughts progressing and keep people engaged.
Yeah. Well, the person who is in front of me is Steve Palladino. He's a founder of Palladino Power Project. It's a personal coaching and consulting service for middle distance runners and long distance runners. That's right, because it's. I think you are doing more things than that, many things than that in the present time.
Yes.
Yeah. He's a specialist in training and racing with power meter. He's a specialist with work with power meters, especially with strip. It's a new technology for us, new technology for all the people, but he produces all the time new information and new knowledge for us. And I am very happy for that, really, because
you're welcome.
Sometimes it's a very dark side to find information about the training with power meters. And his personal background he has personal record in marathon 2 hours and 60 minutes. It's okay. In 1918, he qualified for Olympic trial. Yeah, that's okay. It's very interesting because he has more than 30 years as a medical profession. What your specialty?
I was a foot and ankle surgeon. A podiatrist was my degree, but I worked as a foot and ankle surgeon and also at sports medicine and diabetes, many areas, but all foot and ankle
At
related.
the present time, or you are retired now?
I retired in 2016, which then allowed me to use my time for coaching.
So falling in
I
love
started
of the coaching profession.
Right. Before, when I was still working as a medical professional, I did a little bit of coaching, but I couldn't really devote much time to it because of the time commitment from work. So when I retired from work after over 30 years, then I had more time to work on coaching. And fortunately, Stride was first published in 2015. So right around the same time that the first power meter for running became available was the time that I was retiring and expanding my coaching career.
Maybe in the same time, more or less.
Yeah, exactly.
A destiny for you.
Yeah, in fact, I retired in June of 2016, and in August of 2016, I had my first two runners starting to run with Stride.
Yeah, I have to confess you that the first time that coaches here start to hear about running with power meter was very strange, very, very strange, because in the middle of the traditional methodology of training and the new methodology of training, sometimes is a little complicated to think in watts and in values to work, and all the metrics that you have to take care and to think all in the same time is sometimes a little difficult for us, really.
Well, absolutely. Let me give you the analogy. You speak, fluent in Espanol and in English. You also speak, right? But you still have to translate between the two languages. Well, the traditional way of training for running and power is much the same. You're saying the same things or doing the same things, but two different languages. The metrics are different, but it's the same. They're all telling you the same thing, but two different languages. So for someone that is becoming like myself, for someone who I think in the old way of running by pace and by splits and time, but I also think the new way in power. And I'm fluent in both. I'm able to translate both in my head. So I'm doing the same thing. But what I've had the good fortune of is I started cycling when I got too old to run. I was getting injured. I started cycling back in 2002, racing the bicycle. And I also bought a power meter for the bicycle back in 2002. So I've been, at first I knew I was learning power through racing on the bicycle. I've been working with power since 2002. So, it's over 15 years that I've been working with power. So that I think of power naturally. Yeah. I don't have to do the translation. It just, I naturally understand power. I naturally understand splits and pace and those sort of things. So that's probably the number one issue in people adopting power, is that it's sort of like learning a new language. It's learning how to do the same thing, but with different metrics and different.
Yeah, you say a key word. It's not fluent for me to think in pace and in power by running. Yes, by cycle, because it's more natural for me. But
Right.
running is a new technology, and the new technology sometimes shout me because
Yeah.
the metric you are using new metrics. The new metrics are very exciting to study, but sometimes it's a little difficult to put everything in practice. I saw in my computer thousands of numbers at the same time and put together everything for only 1, 2, 3 important numbers to share to the students.
Exactly. So that's one of the things that, again, going back to the analogy of learning a new language, with all these different metrics, people feel that they have to learn each metric, and as if each metric has equal importance, but they don't. They're things like learning things like ground contact time and form power and the list goes on. Those I tell people when they're first learning, I say, put those aside. Don't worry about those. Worry about power and duration. Those are the most important.
Yes, sir.
Learn how the power duration curve works. Power duration curve is no different in running than it is in cycling or rowing or any one of a number of things that
any endurance sport that you have to put your body from one side to other side.
Exactly. So if you focus on learning power duration curve and how to apply that to your training, and the key metrics being, well, if you have the whole power duration curve, you don't really even need FTP or CP, but CP or FTP, critical power or functional threshold power.
Yes,
we use those interchangeably. To me, they're talking about the same concept. There's technical differences, but that's not important to the user. They're interchangeable. So power duration curve, critical power or functional threshold power, those are the important ones. The next most important, in my mind, is running effectiveness.
Yes, sir.
Running effectiveness is the runner's ability to convert power to speed. It's a ratio of speed and power. So we can have two runners that are producing the same power, but one's more effective, has a higher running effectiveness. One's more effective than the other runner at making that power into speed, right?
Yes, sir.
The runner with a higher running effectiveness, if power is the same, then the person with a higher running effectiveness is going faster.
Yeah, for instance, my student today, they did 20 kilometers, around 233 watts round, more or less. It's incredible how the curve of speed, the curve of heart rate, and the curve of power are different, totally different. And every time that I can understand the difference between different metric and different expressions of movement, I can understand and learn how confused sometimes is to work a strict set of training. For instance, 3 per 2 kilometers at tempo pace or tempo. It's very different by power and very different by speed, and it's incredible the difference. And I try to show this information to my student, and my students say, yeah, could be. We need more time to adapt our mind to the new technology and the new metrics.
Right. Well, what I found particularly with the young athletes is that I'm giving them their numbers, their power numbers, and they know their pace numbers.
Yes, sir.
After a certain period of time, they make the connection just because they're doing it over and over.
That's true. Yeah. A link between pace and power, and especially with very fit athletes.
Right. So you, for example, if I were having a runner do, let's say they're going to do 4 times 3 kilometers.
Yes, sir.
Right. And they're going to do that 4 times 3 kilometers at, maybe 5K to, let's say, let's just make it 10K effort.
Yeah.
4 times 3 kilometers at 10K effort. Okay, so they know their 10K pace, so they could work that out. The same thing in power, the same training, 4 times 3,000 meters, but now it's 10K pace is around 100% to 102% of FTP or critical power. So I could describe that workout. I could describe it 4 times 3,000 meters at 10K pace, or I can do it 4 times 3,000 meters at 10K power, which is 100 to 102% of the threshold. So it's very easy to me to make the conversion from one to the other, and say they're the same, they're equal. If you put it in that terms, here's the key thing for the listeners. The key thing: power must be relative. In other words, you can't just look at the raw watts. It means nothing. It's relative, just like pace. Someone says, I ran 7 minutes per mile, or I did 4 minutes per kilometer. You go, well, what does that mean? It's got to be relative to something. Is 4 minutes per kilometer, is that your half marathon pace? Is that your 10K pace? It's relative. Or how is that compared to your critical speed, right? In power, it's the same thing. Your power, the raw power number is meaningless unless it's relative to something. It's relative to functional threshold power, critical power, or it's relative to the person's 5K power or their 10K power or the half marathon power. Everything has to be relative. And so when you're converting from pace to power, if you do it on the same relative basis. In other words, we use the example of both workouts relative to 10K effort, 10K pace or 10K power. They're both relative to that. And as long as you keep the things the same in terms of how they relate, then the workouts are the same. So here's another example. If I wanted someone to run a tempo run, and I'm giving it to them by pace, I might say, oh, it's somewhere between your 15K and 20K or 21K race pace. You're going to do this tempo. You're going to tempo for 30 minutes at 15 to 21K race pace.
You can adapt the ultimate matrix to the power.
Exactly. So if I was making that tempo a power workout, it's going to be 30 minutes at 15K to 21K power. It's all relative. It's the same relativity. So then what you need to understand or learn is what is this runner's half marathon power or their 21K power, right? And most runners are falling into a very narrow range. So, for example, most recreational runners and even younger runners, they're going to run 5,000 meters at somewhere around anywhere from 103 to 108% of their threshold power.
Yes, sir.
And they'll run at 10,000 meters at 100 to 102%. Elites will go maybe 103, 104, 105% for elites. Half marathon is usually between 94 and 96%. Although Kipchoge, when he runs, a 159 marathon, he probably averaged 97% of his threshold power.
When I wrote from your post on Facebook, the first idea that came to my mind is to use the energy of your body in an intelligent way. This is
Yes.
the base of power.
Yeah, I think the power, I think really there's some important concepts, some important pillars of training for running. There's consistency is very important, and injury avoidance and specificity, being specific, gradual progression over time, the progressive overload over time. Running power allows you to effectively use these important concepts. So running power facilitates that, or makes that possible.
That's great. That's keep the things simple. This is always the idea. Thank you. Thank you very much for your concepts.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Really, really thank you.
But I should say they're not my concepts. I mean, they're concepts that apply. What I'm doing is taking some of these concepts and I'm making them concepts that are applicable to power now.
Yeah.
In other words,
yeah, it's simple. It's simple.
Yeah. Individualizing training, that's an important concept in running, regardless of whether you're doing it by pace or heart rate or power or whatever, or perceived exertion. Back old school days, like when I was training, individualization is important. You adjust the training program for the individual. Well, it's that concept is an important concept. All I do, I borrow that concept and apply it to power.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry. Continue, please. Sorry.
I was going to say, I don't know that I've created many concepts. I've just adapted concepts to power.
Maybe you are creating a new way to learn how it's passing inside the body.
Yes, I will agree with. Yeah, absolutely.
Because today in the morning I had a meeting with other coach, a friend of mine. He is working with bass. It's for him it's strange feeling power, but I will have a lot of information to use in the future with him. And he's a very biomechanic person. You understand? He all the time thinking how is everything, every part of the body, your arms, your knees, your everything. And I say to him, listen to me very carefully, Martin. Power Mirju can give us a lot of information about injuries and a lot of information about biomechanics. We can change everything in the future. We can know when the athlete start to disturb the technique, when, in which power, which effort, in which situation, etc., etc., etc.
I agree with you there. I think, initially we talked about what are the really basic parts of learning power, and then what parts to put aside for a while, and as you learn, then you draw in more and more metrics. Well, I think that there are a number of metrics that allow you to get a feel for the runner's mechanics.
Yes, sir.
I employ those, but it's very important to have the objective metrics, but you also it's also they haven't replaced a good coach's eye. In other words, a coach watching a runner can see things and say, hey, we need to change this, or this is looking wrong, or this is looking a little off. The metrics are just supporting what the coach sees is subjective, and then the metrics support that. So it really takes, for mechanics, it really takes both the metrics and the eye. Now,
it's a qual to think about the wind resistance. We can measure the wind resistance.
Yes. So that what the power meter does, it provides you with all these other metrics, like stride length and cadence and ground contact time, that give you more information to make an assessment than just looking at the runner run, or looking at their split times. We get more information with that power meter, so it enhances our view. It doesn't replace what the coach is seeing, but it adds to it. It gives more information to what the coach is seeing. So I think it works better. I'm gonna go on another point. You mentioned injury, and with running power, you now open up all the training load metrics, all the metrics that allow you to assess training load, that are derived, or they're calculated from the power data, and it gives you training load metrics.
Yes,
so
sir.
I can now look and I can see this run. I'm progressing this runner's training load. I'm progressing their volume or their intensity too rapidly. I could see that. I have charts that tell me that sort of thing. or hey, this is a perfect, this is the sweet spot. We've got them just right for progressing their development. And in looking at the training load, I can tell, am I placing this runner closer to injury risk, or are they in the sweet spot where they're able to progress their fitness with lower risk of injury? That's what the training load metrics help us with.
Actually, you are training only with power meters.
Correct. Yes.
How many students do you have today?
One-on-one clients, I'm probably right around 15, 16. I've had as many as 25 at one time, but I found that that's too much for a person who wants to be retired a little bit. You know, I want to enjoy some of my own time. So if I have 25 people, it's just too much time doing analysis. So I've gradually brought it down to 15, which is perfect. I have people that contact me all the time.
Yes.
And I'm hesitant to run back up, you know, to take on more clients to make it as many as 25.
Yeah, I can understand you because, for instance, I have 10 teenagers, 3 athletes. They take from me every day, all the hour of the day, 3 or 4 hours on the pool, 2 hours on the cycle track, 2 hours on the track, speak with the fathers, speak with the sister to try to build in a good environment. To be a coach for me is a very, very, very high profession, because you have to stay in every detail, what the athlete feel, what the athletes say, what the fathers say, what the coach say, what the environment say, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, etc.
Oh no, exactly. And I think that if I had 10 teenage athletes, that would probably be I'd maybe have one other person that I coach elsewhere, but coaching, first of all, it's the coach has to have the integrity to say, hey, I am going to spend the time on all these details to do the right thing for the athlete. And so what then becomes the question is, how much time do you have to do details, to do the right thing as a coach? And, you know, for some coaches, particularly if you have 10 teenagers with parents and other things and multiple disciplines, that's it. If you, on the other hand, if you have like me, you have mature runners. You know, I have some younger runners, but mostly mature runners that have trained before and they know the process. I could expand to 15 instead of the 10 teenagers. It's a matter of how much the time the coach has to really do the right thing in terms of the details for each athlete.
It's very well. I didn't speak too much about power, but it was an incredible topic in the beginning of this chatting. And it's impossible to separate the idea, because I think of my head coach. I have a head coach. He always teach me that the team is an expression of the coach. Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
If the philosophy of the coach is to work efficiently by power meters, the student will understand by the time all the characteristics and all the idea that the coach wants to share. That is very important. To be a coach is a very it's a moral profession. You have to be incorruptible. You have to be, and sometimes it's very difficult. People don't understand sometimes a coach life. Don't understand the less hours to sleep at night. Don't understand the family environment of the coach. Don't understand all the export, all the energy that you have to pass your energy to young people, to age group of people, the hours that have to speak with the people, to understand, to learn psychology, to learn physiology, to learn, and sometimes to be like a man who knows everything, and sometimes you are afraid. I did, and I am doing thousands of mistakes. But the time I try to fix it, but sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes I don't know where I have to do. And I speak with other coaches, and they say, okay, in my opinion, or my personal opinion, on the other hand, you have this option, and nobody knows exactly what happened. Only the coach with his athletes. For the environment, the trust is very important.
Here's something that I share with people that are close to me. Being a coach is not different than being a doctor
or a father, mother,
or a father. Yes, you are when things are going great and going smoothly, it's easy.
Yeah, that's true.
But as soon as one person has a problem or something doesn't quite go right, someone has a bad race or whatever, now you lose sleep. Now you're thinking of that. You're putting all the extra time in, but being a coach is not unlike being a father or being a doctor. You're thinking about all these different things because you want that person. And like a doctor, like a father, like a coach, it's not just about giving the person the prescription, but you're also teaching. Being a coach is being a teacher. Being a doctor is being a teacher. Being a father is being a teacher. Here's a prescription. Here's the path, but you're also explaining this is why I want you to learn about this so you improve. I want you to learn about this race, what you did in this race, so you could learn and then improve the next time. So coach, doctor, father, so in so many ways are similar.
Tell me something. Can I ask you a personal question? How you can,
as long as it's not about the mafia.
people don't know the story. No. in other time. Right.
Okay.
How you can balance your coach life with your family life? Because sometimes it's not simple. I saw thousands of coach divorces, male and female coaches. Sometimes for the person who no understand, or the person who is not living the coaching life, it's difficult to understand. For instance, sometimes I try to eat something and I'm thinking in numbers. I start to speak alone. and my girlfriend said, "What happened with you? Are you crazy?"
Yes, yes. No, I don't have a magic answer. I think it's important. I think the coach has to have, well, it's the same thing as, let me answer it from my perspective of my days as a doctor.
Okay, that's great. Okay.
There has to be a wall. You have to have a wall. On this side is all the things you're doing as a doctor or a coach. And when you're with your family, you don't bring this to this. You don't bring the coaching or the doctor stuff to the family stuff, unless, my wife is very understanding. My daughter, my sons are understanding. I could occasionally, get opinions, philosophical opinions, but I try to keep family time as family time and coaching time as coaching time, and try to keep those as separate as possible. That's what works for me. But yeah, it does create issues as that wall becomes more flexible, and sometimes the coaching wants to push itself into the family time. And it's tough. I don't have like I said, I don't have a great answer. You try to keep things separate.
I have to confess you that for me, sometimes it's not clear my position, because in the personal way to view the world. For instance, I spent many years to have this team, the team that I have now. Many years working and making mistakes, to learn how to speak with the person, not with the athlete, with the person. And sometimes I have more than 8 hours by day working with the same people. It's very difficult to separate my personal life from my professional life. It's very difficult, more for Latin American people. Latin America are very emotional. I try to think more rational ways than emotional ways, but sometimes it's no easier. I am learning a lot of experience from the teenagers, more than the age group, because they have thousands of questions, they have thousands of new ideas, they have thousands of problems to have to resolve. That is a challenger for me.
Well, like I said, it's a challenge for me too, and it's usually the problem is one way, that the professional life is creeping into the family life, the personal life, right? It's rarely is the personal life creeping into the professional life. It's the other way around. And I just had a thought, like I said, you have to make the time for the family and say there's a wall and this cannot come through. The professional life cannot go to this space over here, which is the family life. And this time is sort of the time when that happens, family life. And I just thought of something, if I had for myself, if I were to want to really establish an exercise program for myself, right? What's the advice you give? The first step you've got to make the time that is your exercise time. So now you have to carve that time and say, this is my exercise time from whatever, 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. every day. That's my exercise time. If you don't do that, then the exercise is not going to happen, right? I think family life and coaching life is sort of a similar. Family life, you got to say, this is my time. This is my family life time. And that's when that's only that can happen. It's like coaching life, time out. This is when this happens. Just like if I was exercising, I'd say this is exercise time, and nothing else happens in exercise time other than me exercising. So that's the way that I'd have to build my exercise by creating that time. Family life, you want healthy family life. I think you got to say, okay, this is family life time and nothing else happens. It's only family life. Just like in this other one, only my exercise happens. And in this other one, only coaching happens. So it's like creating silos, so to speak. Creating there's a silo for this, silo for this, silo for this, and you try not to have things wander in between. But it's tough. I agree with you. It's very hard. It's a challenge. Keeping those personal spaces healthy, your own exercise, your own coaching, your family, keeping those healthy, I think is really important about keeping stuff from invading from one to the other.
Yes, I decided many years ago to don't have family, not for nothing special, only to have more time to grow up in coaching life. But I feel sometimes not being father, I don't have a special feeling of signs of sensibility to work with some situations. Can you understand? Some situations where the teenagers feel things, strange things. I don't know. Sometimes at night, I sit down in front of. I don't watch television, but only images to pass and my brain's rest. Especially when I started to work with the UKO, crazy things for me. And I think these things had been great, had been wrong, had been, I don't know. Sometimes I have thousands of questions by myself. And it's normal. By the time, less questions or new questions, really, no less new questions, but it's as a continue learning how to be a coach, continue learning. When I was young than now, I'm almost 40. I wanted to learn everything about block periodization, traditional periodization, of training theory. And now that is, yes, it's important, but it's no, it's natural. Now it's much important how to work with the mind, how the people feel, how is to motivate people, how we can teach things in the right way, how to speak in front of the people, how to speak in front of the father, how to speak in front of other coaches. That is more important in this phase of my life than the training theory.
Yes, I see it as, you know, coach has to have knowledge about training,
Yes, sir.
principles, and all the concepts. But the coach is dealing with people. So the coach has to bring their knowledge, and they have to interact with people, and how the people think, and how they care, and how they feel on that particular day, etc. It really is not, you know, and this is the thing about how I'm associated with running with power. And I, you know, on Facebook and stuff, and even in interviews, I talk, people mostly interview me about the numbers and the principles and the concepts, but that's one piece. The other big piece is dealing with the person, you know, dealing with the individuals, you know, the psychology and so forth. And in my remote coaching, I do a little bit of that. But when I coach in person, like you do, when I coach young people, there'd be times we'd have a training session and I'd make it shorter, and then we'd sit down and we'd talk. We'd talk about understanding, you know, racing principles, and how your mind should work in a race. And in other words, there was a whole psychological or cognitive learning a part of developing a runner or developing a triathlete, an endurance athlete. There's a whole part that's not just numbers and physiology and training concepts. It's about the mind, getting the particularly young persons, but also in older individuals, helping them learn about the sport, learn about their mind, learn how to have better control over their thought processes as they're training and racing. Very important.
An important, yeah, that's true, and I totally agree with you. And now I remember when you spoke, for instance, a very famous phrase from Palladino in the book said, "All of us are slaves from the habits, but it's better to be a slave from the good habit than the worst habit."
That's pretty profound. In a simple statement, it's pretty profound, isn't it?
Sorry, now I remembered that phrase in my mind, when you was talking. Can you explain? Okay, I take from an interview this. My role is to clarify the provide out of the fog of the possible. What is the meaning of this?
Say that again.
My role as a coach, you,
yeah,
to clarify the probable out of the fog of possible.
Yes.
Can you explain?
Yes. So one of the important things for interacting with an athlete is that the coach and the athlete have the same expectations. The coach and the athlete are on the same page. And this is the same as in a, you know, when you're a doctor, you want to level expectations. You know, if somebody, you know, if their disease is bad, you're not going to tell them it's good. You want to be on the same expectation. So in coaching, you have a runner that is, let's say they're a 35-minute 10K runner.
Yeah.
And they go, they write, my goal is I want to be 31-minute 10K runner. And so
to be realistic,
my role as a coach is to say, I love that. I love that you want to get that much better, but here's what it looks like. This is what's probable. This is what's probable in the next 6 months. It's not, 34 minutes is more probable in the next 6 months. And let's work for that. And after that, then let's reassess, and then we'll work for the next goal. But is it possible for the runner to run 31 minutes at some point in time? Yeah, maybe possible, right? Maybe that runner, maybe they're a younger runner, they don't have a lot of training behind them. Maybe 2 or 3 years from now, they might be a 31-minute 10,000 meter runner. But right now they're 35, and they're not going to be 31 minutes in this season, this next 6 months or 8 months. So it's important for the coach to interact with the athlete to clarify what's probable and what's possible. This is what's possible. For example, I have young athletes, and here's a common thing. I'll have a young athlete say in the 8th grade, 12, 13 years old, and they might be, say, 10 minutes and 20 seconds for 3,200 meters. Or let's just make it. Let's say they're like 5 minutes for 1,500 or for 1,600 meters. I give them this exercise. I go, subtract 2% per year, 2 to 3%, because that is reasonable improvement in that age, 2 to 3%. Sometimes a little bit more if it's a male getting the testosterone at puberty. But I say, take your 5 minutes and take 2 to 3% off of it. That's probably what you can do next year. Do 2 to 3% off of that. That's what you're going to be 2 years from now. 2 to 3% off of that. That's what it should be 4 years from now. So this is what's possible. But right now, this is what's probable. And so, yeah, it's about leveling expectations and getting the coach and the athlete's expectations on the same page. That's why I say a coach's role is define what is probable out of what is possible.
What happened when the coach and the athlete they don't have the same expectation? For instance, many times I have athletes who have talent, but they don't want to give the best. You understand? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. They are not consistent. They don't have consistency in the actions, training. Sometimes it's a girlfriend. Oh, my girlfriend is sad, and I sad too because I don't know. The universe, the energy of the universe, have to stay together with my emotional girlfriend, and strange things that the people say. Or for instance, it's very common here. I don't know in America, but here it's very common that the father had more expectation than the athlete. The athlete stay under pressure at home in his or her house by the father and push the limits all the time, and suddenly the athlete explodes. I don't want to train anymore. I don't want more. I don't want more. Really, I don't want more. I can't. I can't support this.
Right.
It's a very
So that's actually there's two separate issues. One is dealing with the parental parent pressure, but also the first one that you mentioned was how do you reconcile you're expecting this and the athlete expecting something different.
Yes, sir.
And so I think the responsibility, the onus is on the person that's expecting more to explain what's going to happen. So if I have a higher expectation than the athlete, which is not too common, but sometimes, then it's my responsibility to explain to the athlete, this is how we're going to make that difference, how we're going to meet. This is my plan. And can you do this plan? Because if you do this plan, I think you're going to be better than what you think. On the other hand, if the athlete's expectations like, oh, I want to be this good, and I go, no, I think this is where you're going to be in the next 8 months, and they go, no, I think I can do this, then it's on the responsibilities on them. And I ask them, okay, so what are you going to do to get that much better than my expectations? So this is what I see. I see that you have a job, you have a girlfriend, you have, this much hours for training, but you think you're going to get this much better. What are you going to do?
But Steve, I get the idea. I get very well the idea. But sometimes it's very difficult to find the limit of the coach expectation and the athlete expectation. It's not clear. You have to, or for instance, we don't have a lot of athletes. If you lose an athlete for any problem, whatever, it's very difficult to find a new athlete here, for instance. This is a very, very critical situation here because our athletes grow still 18 years, and then they start to go to the university or to get a family, or sometimes it's very difficult. In this one opportunity, my hair coach said, all that happened in the training system, the training process, is a responsibility from the coach. Everything. You can give the problem to other people. You are the responsible of the process. You have to learn how. You can feel bad, you can feel good. You have to be stable, in balance all the time. This is your responsibility all the time. And sometimes it's very difficult because you have a lot of feelings.
It's that I understand exactly what you're saying. And I want that responsibility, but at the same time, it's a partnership.
Yeah.
You have an athlete and a coach. It's a partnership. You're going on a journey together, right? And yes, I will take I will take all the responsibilities, but the athletes on that partnership, they're in that partnership. So, if they're going to sleep and getting only 6 hours of sleep, that's not working. And so, yes, it's my responsibility, but my responsibility as a coach is to educate, right?
Yes, sir. I'm
Yes, I'm gonna apply my knowledge, but I have to educate the athlete. Okay, this is what you need to do in this partnership. This is what you need to do to live up to your side of the bargain. I'm going to bring everything I know, everything I can. I'm going to stay up at nights sometime worrying about what to do next for you. But your side, this is what you have to do. And so it is a partnership. It's not, yes, the coach has a big responsibility, but the athlete, it's a partnership. They've got to be educated and agree to live up to their side of the bargain. A coach can't follow the athlete around 24 hours a day and tell them what time it is to go to bed and what, this is bad food for you, this is good, or that sort of thing. There's got to be that part of it. And what's very rewarding as a coach is when you see athletes buy into that process. They understand and they do their part. They do their part. They learn. You have to teach them, but they learn and they become more independent and less reliant on you to tell them everything to do.
Oh, that is great. For instance, now I am reading this book, the Swing Coach Playbook, Volume 2. And the first chapter say, for instance, develop state of competitive swimmers, and speak about how the coach had to do with different ages. Yeah, for age from 16 to 18. And the main sentence say, learn to competitive and learn to be independent. You have to think for yourself, to be responsible. For instance, this everyone wants to go to heaven. No one wants to die. If you want to go to heaven, you have to do that is required, even when it's not the way that you want to do the things.
There it is. That statement encapsulates what we talked about. That this is a partnership. I can tell you how to get to heaven, but you've got to do what's required to get to heaven. If you're the athlete, and so it is a partnership.
Yes,
I have a responsibility for educating, for coming up with the right thing at the right time. Big responsibility, but the athlete has to learn, become independent. This is one of the things I take great pride in having coached athletes from a young age to now they're coaching, they're on college scholarship. They're going to college on scholarship, and they're outstanding athletes. It used to be sometimes you get a question or a phone call every day.
Yeah.
Right? But now it's a phone call once a week or once every 2 weeks. I have a question about this, but otherwise they know what needs to be done. They know what the next steps are. And so I take pride in that. If I create an athlete that's able to make decisions, make the right decisions on their own, I've done a great job as a coach. I've helped them develop, but they've learned what I've taught them, to the point that they're now able to, they could tell me what the next workout is going to be, or what the next week is going to be of workouts, just because they've learned, and they know and they can do it. They just self-execute. They do the things on their own because they've learned that much. And then the coach's role, like the book says, the coach's role takes on a different flavor. The coach's role is just in a more elite athlete. The coach's role is not so much dictating the training process, but sort of being a sounding board for the training process. Meaning the athlete, you ask the athlete, what do you think? What do you think you need to do? What do you feel you need to do right now? I have a feeling, I know what I would do, but what do you do? Because the athlete has done it at a high level for such a long time. They get it.
To convert the answer in question. Something like this.
Exactly. So the elite athlete has gone from, the coaching system where you're telling them this is this for this week and this day, and I want you to do this at home. If they stick with it long enough and they actually become elite, they know all those things. Now it's just, they say, hey, I feel like, I feel like I should be doing this right now. And you go, yes, or no, let's not do it right now. Let's, there's more dialogue about where the training is going at the elite level.
It is important that, because I'm unfortunately, I can speak with many coaches and I can speak with many athletes, open water champions, because I come from the pool. I'm a swimming coach first, and then other sport. Sometimes I saw that the coach feel that he's more important than the athletes. Can you understand me? Oh, I'm the coach. I'm like I don't know, like a king. And this relationship will broke in the future, always, because the athletes start to feel like less important. And I said, why I am doing all this effort if my coach doesn't listen me, or sometimes the coach feel that is more important than the athletes, and this is a very big problem.
Well, I think I understand exactly what you're saying, and it disturbs me. Remember, we talked about a coach and athlete, it's being a partnership.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And in the partnership, the communication has to go both ways. The ideas have to go both ways. Now, in a younger athlete, the ideas are going more from the coach to the athlete, but there's still some coming back. In the elite athlete, like I said, the ideas now, they're on equal terms. The coach and the athlete are, the ideas and the dialogue has to be equal. It can't be, it's just the coach and it's my way or the highway. It can't be that. Are you familiar with that term? It's English, it's American, I guess. It's my way or the highway. It means follow what I say, and there is no other way. You have to do what I say, otherwise you're out.
It's a very common situation. It's a very common situation. we have
there has to be mutual respect.
Yeah, I agree.
Even in the greatest coaches, there has to be mutual respect and mutual dialogue. It can't be a one-way relationship.
Let me tell you something. Sometimes I not agree with my hair coach in some decisions, but I trust in his experience and his knowledge, and this is a proof of truth for me. Okay, I not agree with you, but I'm trust in you. I trust in your experience. I have to spend many years to understand this concept, but was very clarified for me, really. The trust, the importance of to trust in your experience or in your words. Sometimes we have to grow up many times again and again and again to maturate the idea, to think the idea. It's sometimes it's complicated, but it's
what you're saying. What you're saying, we talked earlier about what the role of the coach is. One of the roles of the coach is to build trust.
Yes, sir.
The coach has to build trust, and part of the method of building trust is educating and communicating. That's an important part of building trust, and realizing that if you're doing things right, your athletes are learning. At some point, yes, they trust you, but you also have to trust them that they've learned from you, and what they're telling you back is something that you should take into consideration. It's it's like you said, when I was young, like when I was in college, my coach was this famous physiologist, and whatever he said, I did. That was it. But I learned from him.
Yes, sir.
So that when I was no longer in college, I could adapt some of the things I learned from him and some of the things I read. But I trusted him completely, because he had authority, and the other athletes that had been there, they had success. Which, by the way, success goes a long way to building trust.
Yes.
If an athlete is having success in a system, then they're going to trust the system. So that's the other part of building trust. I talked about building trust is about communicating. It's about educating, but it's about putting the athlete in successful situations.
But
it's
okay.
In other words, if you put the athlete in a way even if it's in a workout, if they're successful and you say, hey, I want you to do this one thing in the workout, and they're successful, that builds their confidence, that builds their trust in the system. So building success, and I'm going to say one more thing. Remember how I said, the coach's role is to state what's probable out of what's possible?
Yes, sir.
Well, leveling expectations and saying, look, this is what I think you can have success at. And they go out and they're successful at, or even if they exceed that, that's going to be build trust, as opposed to going along with what's possible and saying, yeah, oh, sure, let's do that. And they fail, they're going to lose trust if there's failure. So communication, education, and building success, I think, is what builds that trust component.
I am thinking, with your medical experience and coach experience, what is the meaning of injury for an athlete?
So you mean in a broad sense? I think injury to me, that's the most important. Injury and illness, both. Preventing injury and illness is a primary importance, because it interrupts consistency. A runner or an athlete, an endurance athlete, improves between 16 and 18 years old. We'll use that as an age category, but at any age, right? They improve by being consistent day in, day out, week in, week out, month after month, year after year. If they're consistent, they're going to be very successful. If they stay consistent and they build and build gradually, they're going to be very successful at the end. Remember, I use the example of 2 to 3% of improvement every year. But if the athlete gets ill or injured, there's 2 weeks where they regress, and then it takes a little time to come back after the injuries, where you're training at a lower level. So now it's turned, into a 4-month period where you've lost that consistency. You've lost that 2 to 3% ramp, that linear ramp. Nothing's going to happen linearly, but 2 to 3% if you stay consistent. But if you throw in injury or illness, even if they're short, a week here, a week there, 2 weeks here, then it goes up, down, but never going up at the same rate as if they stay consistent. So it's to me, I'd rather stay just under the injury illness risk level. I'd rather train just under that and go for consistency and the long haul than going for as much as you can get and risking injury, because you probably will get injured or ill, and you're going to lose that consistency, and you're going to lose the long-term progress.
Yeah, we say an injury is, in English, something like this: an injury is a challenger today for a loss in the future.
Yeah. Exactly.
Something like this. The Spanish is pan para hoy, hambre para mañana. Bread for today, angry for tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. It's so true. And this is another, related to that is you have runners or have athletes that are very motivated, and they go harder than you want them to go every day. They're going too hard. They're going to get ill or injured. Right. Yeah. And so they see things on the short term. I'm trying to get better, in 3 months. No. Let's not look at 3 months. Let's look at you. Let's look at you 2, 3, 4, 6 years from now. I have athletes that are really good. I tell them, I says, look, you're training for 2024 Olympics.
That's true. Yeah.
You're not training for now. You're training for there. What's the easiest way to get there? Stay consistent. No regressions. No regressions. Let's stay consistent over this 6, 7, 8 year period. And so to do that, if you're going too hard all the time, that's going to invariably is going to result in injury or illness, and that's a setback. No setbacks. So why not go easy on your easy days, right? Let's not go too hard on your easy days. Go easy so you can go hard on your hard days. Let's just stay consistent and not have those setbacks. I think that's the number one principle in endurance athletics is consistency over long duration, avoiding setbacks, which means avoiding injury and illness. I think that's the key. That's the key to success in the long term. Yeah.
What's happening today with this period of coronavirus?
It's a great question.
For instance, let me tell you here. We some, not all, but some athletes could answer and start to training 3 months ago. Yeah, we have only one pool open today for us. Well, the cycle track is public, but the athlete track, no. We can go to the track twice per week, 2 hours, no more than, with all our protocol, this social distance, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
But it's very, very, very difficult to keep the motivation for the children. It's complicated, really, because we don't have competitions in the future. We don't know when we start to compete in any match, you know. It's
when you asked the question, I paused. It's the coronavirus has impacted different areas and different individuals in different ways.
Yeah, political.
For example, if you're a triathlete, you're no access to the pool. There's no places that have pools open. I don't know that there are. In some locations, for a while, in certain areas of the world, you're a cyclist. You couldn't leave 3 kilometers from your home. That's it. Same thing with running. Running, you're confined to 30 minutes outside of your home at a certain time of day. So at different times, at different places, it had different impacts. But for all athletes, it's impacted motivation because competition. What are we training for?
Exactly.
Well, that then it becomes the coach's responsibility to find ways to motivate the athlete. Again, I try to use time trials for the athletes and create. And you've seen it on my Facebook group. I try to create virtual competitions and time trials to give people targets. Okay, hey, you have a 10K time trial on November 10th. And that's the target. That's what we're training for now. That is our target. And it's like the coach has to create the carrot, right? The coach has to create the carrot. And the carrot is a time trial. Or this. In a younger athlete, I go, again, what we're talking about. The best chance of long-term improvement is staying consistent. You may not be training for this race that we used to have in non-COVID times. That's not there anymore. But we still are looking 3 years from now or 2 years from now. And if you keep training consistently, we keep following the program, we're on a program not for 3 months from now or 2 months from now. We're on a program for 3 years. Even if I'm not your coach, even if somebody else starts coaching you, your plan is 6, 7 years from now for the younger athletes. And so that's another way of motivating, and just saying, hey, consistency. Let's stick with it. We may not have a race next month. Maybe there's only this time trial, but 3 years from now, if you train now, you're going to be ahead of the person that had a loss of motivation and stopped the training. So I think it's to the coach's responsibility to create the carrots for the athlete, whether it's real or psychological. It's up to the coach to keep the athlete engaged. It's unfortunate if an athlete does not have a coach, then they have to do all of that on their own. They have to maintain their motivation on their own. Or if they have a coach, the coach is part of that process of keeping the motivation.
That's great. That's a great concept. Thank you very much for that. Okay, in one way or in another, you answer all my questions. I have a lot of questions, but was very in 3 or 4 words, or keywords, better to say. What is the meaning of to be a coach in your personal opinion?
A coach is an educator and is an advocate, for the athlete to become better. You're a partner in helping that athlete to improve themselves. And whether that improvement is in a 10K time or a marathon or just improving on what they did 2 months ago, you're in this partnership to help the athlete to improve. And it's improving physically and psychologically, cognitively, meaning, you're teaching as well as giving them the fitness guidance. You're also teaching them things like how to race and how to train, etc.
With all these chatings with many coaches and athletes, always I try to find the X factor that James Kusilman said many years ago. A famous swimming coach, Doc Kusilman, said to be a coach is not only know about biomechanic, technique, training theory, physiology, psychology, etc. It's something more. It's something you have to learn, it's something to grow up inside you with many years. I think you answer all this concept in this chat. Thank you very much for that.
I want to thank you, because it's been such a great pleasure of mine to talk about coaching and philosophy of coaching and approaches, rather than just talking about power numbers. Most of the interviews that I have, it's talking about this metric or this power number, and it's all technical.
Yes, sir.
I thank you for allowing me to talk on these subjects. It's been a pleasure.
And I have to say thank you for to share with us um, this important concept and answer about everything alive. Um, to finish, do you have any advice for the new coaches or for the new athletes that you think are important in the coaching career or the athlete's career?
Well, I think my biggest advice is most importantly is learn, educate yourself. Whether it's read lots. Eddie Merckx used to, they say, what's the key to your success, as a cyclist? He goes, ride lots. Well, the key to becoming a successful coach, as well as an athlete, is read lots, read materials, read books, anything you can, as much as you can, read. And then also understand that it's not just about the technical aspects, like you said, mechanics and physiology. It's the interpersonal aspects. Realize that as a coach, it's a partnership. You're learning how to become better at interpersonal interactions, not just the learning part. So that's my advice.
Okay, I will share your advice with other coaches in the future. Well, Steve, thank you very much for your time. It was a really, 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 really pleasure to have this chat with you. Really, I don't have words to say thank you. It's not enough to say thank you, but thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. It's really my pleasure.
Okay, have a good weekend. Have a good coach. Maybe in the future we can have more technical chat there, but for the new learners.
Yeah, well, it's whenever you want, whatever you want. I love dialoguing with other coaches, and it was great talking with you.
Thank you, and have my best wishes to your family and to you.
To you, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.